one common mistake in business development is if people haven't had experience in business development, or they know that they should automate or use AI, but they do it too soon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Recruitment Podcast by Recruit CRM. I'm back. It's Kate O'Neill, your host, and I'm here again to bring you a brilliant conversation with one of the best minds in recruitment. We're going to take a real deep dive into a very interesting subject today. So I'm going to get started and introduce today's guest. So I am really pleased to have Diane Prince here with us today. To talk about strategies to grow your recruitment business. So, this is why I'm excited about this podcast today, because not only have you got your own experience of growing very successful staffing agencies, but you now help other people do it. And you're obviously seeing inside so many different businesses. So I'm going to get cracking with the questions because there's stuff I want to make sure we cover for the listeners, but also being a little bit selfish, I want to learn a lot from you as well. So we'll get cracking. So as I said, you've built and sold 2 8-figure staffing agencies. Can you share what initially inspired you to get into the recruitment industry? Because everyone's got their own interesting stories about how they got into our market, haven't they?
Yes, and I love this question because I know a lot of people say, well, I fell into it just like everybody else, but I did not fall into it. I went into it really intentionally. And the way that it happened is that I was with my then husband, and we set out to build a business with the goal of, let's see if we can build a business and sell it and retire in our 30s. And so that's how we started that was our vision. And then from there, we thought about all different kinds of business ideas. But it had to, because we had that vision, we wanted to find a business that would satisfy that and be a business that we could build and exit that had activity, like acquisition activity. So that's how, from a lot of brainstorming and just thinking about lots of different ideas, talking to various people, it was dinner with my dad, and he said, why don't you do a temp agency for title insurance people, which is like a super specific thing that is here in the US and some other countries, but it's very niche. So that was the whole thing. The whole idea was a temp agency for a very specific niche. And that's how it came about versus like having experience in recruiting and then deciding to start a business.
Yeah. And actually, I love how you didn't fall into it. Like, you intentionally went into it. And that's amazing, because a lot of people that set up, I can only speak for the UK, so I'm not based in the US, but a lot of people that set up recruitment businesses, they do it because they've been a consultant for years, or they just want to do their own thing. So it's amazing that you've been so successful, and it's proven that you don't necessarily have to have worked in an agency being employed for years or in some sort of internal talent team. You've gone straight in and set up that successful agency. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And even if and most people do have experience when they enter into entrepreneurship, but it's still really important to get clear on what your vision is and what you want to accomplish out of it. It might be to have a nice lifestyle business where you can set aside some money, invest in real estate or something. It might be to build it to exit. And there's different ways to go about it based on your end goal and your vision. So in my unique position, I talk to recruiting agency owners every day, different people. And so one thing that sometimes people come to me like they're in their 70s and they've been building this business, but it's not going where they want. It's not actually satisfying their goals for their life. So it is really important to be clear on that from the get-go.
So thinking back to when you started that first agency, that first business, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you sort of overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of challenges along the way, but first starting out, face the, like, as each challenge came, we dealt with it because we didn't really know. I mean, there was so much that we didn't know. I didn't even know about, workers' compensation insurance, which here is important. I don't know what it's called in England, but just like the legal things, because we had people that our contractors or temps were on our payroll. So we just were so naive and just really, so just my big takeaway from that, and when I build other businesses, it's just step by step. Okay. Because one thing that can be a huge challenge is when you want to figure out the whole thing, and you can get so overwhelmed, and that paralyzes people from starting businesses. So if you look at it, like, you have that vision, and then you go backward, you kind of back into it, but also just think, like, you only need to do the next thing each day. Like, what is the next thing? What is the next step? And then being able to articulate, what questions do I need to answer? Like, what is the next thing that I need to solve in my business?
Yeah. It's so easy to get overwhelmed, isn't it? And again, I know from I've done it myself, where you think too far ahead of all these things you need to do, when actually, as you said, it's just, right, well, what do I need to do next? Like, what's the most important thing to do now or next, instead of overwhelming yourself with there's always a million and one things to do when you're running a business, but it's about what needs to be done sort of now, isn't it? Because I've had times where I've been really overwhelmed, but for silly reasons, in a way, sort of overwhelming myself with stuff that actually in the now isn't a concern, or shouldn't be a concern.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a puzzle. If you think about it, doing a 1,000-piece puzzle, you're not going to do the whole puzzle in a half an hour. It's going to take you a few days, even if you're consistent about it. And all you need to do is get the next piece. What is the next piece that fits here? And that's the same thing with entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So can you walk us through your 5-step framework for building an 8-figure recruiting business? And sort of, it'd be really interesting to hear as well how you developed that process as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I developed the process from just doing it myself, and then analyzing too, like, when I first got into the business and started, I didn't have, like, there wasn't social media. There weren't like all these influencers and all these things. We literally had, I don't know if you had in England, the Dummies books, that series, the black.
Yeah.
Okay. So like we literally bought a book that was how to start a temp agency for dummies.
Love it.
So now, as I, looking back, I've developed my framework based on looking back and telling my story and what's worked. And then also hearing what coaches and influencers are saying today. And then I'll think, like, oh, that's why that worked, because that's what we did, even though it wasn't something that, like, we had read or heard other people say.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's, if I'm listening to somebody's sort of, like you say, 5-step framework or whatever, to know that somebody's taken that from their own experience is, it's sort of comforting and refreshing, because it works because they've used it themselves. So is it sort of, what is that sort of 5-step process?
Yeah. And then before I tell you the 5 steps, the other thing is too, like, drawing from experience, and then also staying relevant, because there's so much that we can take from, like, the old school way of doing things, and then how in 2025 we have the tools that we have, and how do you marry both of those things, like old school experience plus technology, and that is really powerful. So so should I dig into the 5 steps?
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Okay, so the first one we already discussed is your vision, getting clear on your vision so that you can align your business to your vision. So, and your vision, like in your example, Kate, your vision might change. So really what I do is I have a visioning document that I share. My whole team knows the vision. It's important that everybody's on board and understands where you're trying to go. And every year I revisit the vision. So when people join my Recruiting Agency 360 program, that it starts with a visioning exercise, and it's super powerful because you can look back and see, like, okay, is this still my vision? And then also it's really powerful to see all the things that you've done this quarter or year, because people tend to minimize that and don't realize how far they've gotten. People tend to look at like how far they are from where they want to be, but looking back into seeing like what you've accomplished in the last year can be really powerful. So that's the first thing, is aligning your vision. And the second thing is defining and analyzing your niche. So I've been in very niche businesses. So I mentioned my first niche was title insurance. It's very small, like what seems to be such a small niche, but because we were so niche focused, I mean, we got to $1 million weekly billings. So we had about 700 temps out at any given time in that very, very small niche. And so now, even for example, with my virtual assistant agency, we are specializing in staffing and recruiting agency owners. So it's really important. It's important for a lot of reasons, but defining and analyzing your niche is a second step. And third is scaling. So this is like the middle part, and you want to make sure, one part about scaling is making sure that your business model is scalable, if that's what you want to do. And then also realizing it's just, scaling can be, there are monotonous things to it. When you're building a business, there's different stages, and entrepreneurs don't necessarily have like what it takes to go from startup to building a mature business. Like for me, I like to build and sell. Other people who started what I did are now have $1 billion agencies because they're still doing it, 25 years later. For me, I'm much more of like, let's get it started, let's get it going and successful and sell it. That's just my personality. So so that's the next thing, is to scale. And then the fourth element is your team. And it's so interesting to me because in looking back at my successes, it's the team. I mean, it's like the vision and everything, but it's when you have the right people, you're really unstoppable. And that's why I started my virtual assistant agency. We call them the A team, and because it's about who your people are and having the right people in the right seats. And so many people people come to me that I coach, and they have underperformers, they have mediocre people, and their goal though is to create an exceptional business, but you can't. I mean, our business is our people. So it's a constant effort to get the right people and constantly evaluate and be able to fire people when you need to. So that's really like building your team. So that's why and now today, like when I mentioned before about staying relevant, and I mean, now we have so many resources to build a stellar team in an affordable way. Offshore, virtual, there's so many ways. So, and it's not just about, it's about the people. It's about having the right people. So like some people will say to me, oh, I tried virtual assistants in the Philippines, it didn't work. Well, that's like saying, oh, I tried, I tried a woman in the US and it didn't work. Like, we're all different, right? We've all worked with people that don't work, but we still hire another different person, right?
And it's one person that you've tried in the Philippines. It's like saying, I've tried ready salted crisps and Walkers, and I don't like any crisps anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, it might just be that crisp that you don't like, using a food analogy because I'm obsessed with food. But I so agree with the people in the team stuff. There's a lot, again, I can only speak for the UK, but I see it a lot where there's so many underperformers that just are kept in a business for too long.
Yes. And it makes a big difference for the entire team and the culture. And then along with that is also going along with building your team is knowing how to delegate and lead. And that is not, for most people, that is not a natural skill set. So that I could say I was a terrible manager when I started out. It takes a lot, and that is one thing. It's hard. Yeah. It's very hard. And that, that's one thing with the A team, is that we provide our virtual assistants with the experience to we help the founders, we help our clients delegate, and we help teach them how to do it. Because that's another thing too, is people will hire virtual assistants, but not really have a solid plan. Like I see that a lot where they're like, yeah, I have this virtual assistant. I have no idea what they're doing because it's can be overwhelming to even like manage them. So our people also will project manage the other assistants and the founder. Like my team project manages me as well. So that's the other thing is building your team. That's the fourth. And then the fifth is just keep executing no matter what. And this is where it can be really tough because it can be monotonous. So typically one mistake that is commonly made is shiny object syndrome. It's like, oh, there's another idea. Let's do that. Let's do, this what we're doing is working really well. Let's add this business line. But if you can, and that's where that goes to like, if you're going to keep your business to maturity and keep running it or not, but there's a certain point where you just need to keep on executing and keep on focusing and leaning into what's working and
Yeah, that did make me smile when you said the shiny object syndrome, because I didn't used to be, when I'd one business, I didn't do that as much, but now I've got the two, I do find that happening sometimes, and I have to be very strict and sit back and evaluate and think, right, why are you going to do this because it needs to be done and it's a priority, or is it just because it's fun and exciting? Like that it needs, it's important. I think a lot of people, and also it's making a lot of the time, sometimes people do that but don't finish things. So if you get pulled to different things all the time, well, have you finished what you needed to do first, sort of thing? So yeah, I see that a lot, and yeah, sometimes I can be a bit guilty of that as well, sort of drawn towards the things that feel fun and exciting, but actually are they the absolute priority in this moment in time?
Yeah, same. I fall prey. I do it too.
Yeah. So how does the framework adapt for, because you mentioned then like you were I've worked in very sort of tight niches in my career as well, but how does the framework adapt for agencies in sort of those different niches or at different stages of growth?
What do you mean, how does it adapt?
Well, if it even has to adapt. So, the framework, that 5-step framework, is there a need for it to adapt? Is it for whatever the niche, whatever the sort of business, it applies?
Yeah, all of those basics apply. I mean, there's going to be obviously different ways to operate. Like if you're doing healthcare and you have to do credentialing and things like that, but those five frameworks that can adapt to really any kind of business. It doesn't even need to be.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, we've got some more questions to cover off, but before we do, as per usual, if you've been watching all the other episodes, you'll understand and know that at some point in the episodes, I have to do a cheeky little mention of Recruit CRM. So that is what I'm going to do right now. Now, we've been talking about the essential steps to building a successful and scalable recruitment business. And one key element that you cannot go without within your tech stack, I think we could easily argue, is your CRM. And I know that, recruitment technology is getting more important for a lot of agencies, especially in the UK. But when it comes to CRMs, there is a lot of choice. And sometimes it can be difficult to know what to go for and what's the sort of best option. Is it affordable? All these sorts of things come into it. Now, I use Recruit CRM myself within my agency. Now, it is specifically, designed for recruitment agencies. So it is for our industry. It's not a sales blanket approach sort of CRM. Now, for me, it really does help me sort of streamline my processes, manage my candidates, manage my clients, make me more sort of efficient and effective. It helps me scale my operations. It helps me remember to do things, the things that are important. Just talking about then the shiny object syndrome, the reminders I get, for example, pull me back into what I should be focusing on. So, tracking leads, automating workflows, it integrates with other essential tools. So the rest of your tech stack very easily. So it really is tailored to basically make your life easier, help you grow your agency, help you grow your desk, and sort of spend less time on the time-consuming admin tasks. It makes everything flow a lot better. So if you are looking to expand and you want to better your tech stack, you can get a demo. I'm going to come to how you can access the demo and sort of get a bit of a look more into Recruit CRM at the end. But I would recommend you do so because it's going to help you sort of tick all those boxes, basically. So back to the questions. So there's going to be people listening to this at different, obviously different stages of their recruitment experience and sort of business. But what are the key mistakes that early stage recruitment businesses often make in business development? Because I know that is, when you're starting out, it's really important, isn't it? And I think there'll be people watching that could really benefit from that. So how do you think people can avoid them?
Yeah, one common mistake in business development is if people haven't had experience in business development, or they know that they should automate or use AI, but they do it too soon, because you want to make sure, and it does go back to that, the niche and what your offer is. So you want to test the market and make sure that you have an offer that's has the right timing and that there's a need for it. And so you don't want to turn it over to, it can be really appealing to turn it all over to somebody because it seems like it's going to be a magic bullet. There are no magic bullets. So what you want to do is really understand what I call voice of customer. This is something that we teach in the program. Is voice of customer is really like dig into what your customers, what your ideal client profile is talking about and worried about. You want to dial into that, get a really deep understanding of the niche that you're serving. This goes for candidates as well. And then you also want to establish your tone of voice. Of course, I have an exercise for that too, but establish really how you are going to communicate, and then test it, see what works before you automate. A lot of people will, sometimes they come to me and they're like, well, I have this automation that who so-and-so helped me with, and I'll look at it right away and this is why it's not working. And a lot of time it's copy. It's really like actually the copy, because people tend to, that is it's really one of the only differentiators is our own personalities. And, it used to be, as we send out cold emails and it was pretty effective. Now that everybody's doing it and everybody's doing NPCs from,
people are fed up of it.
Yeah, people are doing it, but it does work amazingly when you use your own voice, because that stands out. So that's one thing. Don't automate. That's a big mistake. Biz dev mistake is automating, even turning it over to a lead gen company. And always, if you're tempted to do that, always look at, okay, make sure that you get references. This is another mistake I see people in biz dev. They'll hire, it's so appealing to think, oh, we're going to fill your inbox, we're going to feed you, all the business you need. That's appealing. You want it, oh, that sounds like a relief. I don't have to do this. It's stressful. But then I've never seen it work. So if you're going to go to one of those agencies, always get 3 references. So many times, you'll learn so much if they give you a reference or not. I won't work with anyone who won't give me
how they react to that is a telltale sign, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how many people won't give you references. And then also, I always would listen to a recording of, if you're having people like try to set up appointments and call, always dig in, listen to a recording of the salespeople and how they do it, because I've done that before and it was super cringe, and I could tell why there is no activity from that. So test things, don't automate. To use tools and automate, but not too soon.
Not too soon, yeah. Do you know what? That was music to my ears, because, like you said, it's our personality is what differentiates us, what makes us stand out. And again, what you said about, we've got to find out the needs, the pain points, and that's much easier by speaking to people. Doing it that way. And like you said, if you automate too soon, and again, if people don't know who you are and the language you're using in those email sequences, for example, maybe isn't you, it's been done by somebody else and it's not the way you speak, it just doesn't land as well, does it? So love that. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
So one of the last thing I wanted to cover off, because I think, like we said, you're balancing, you're spinning a lot of plates, right, when you're running a business. So, in your experience, how is it that you balance the need for that rapid growth, if you want it, with the importance of sort of that high quality service, the great company culture as well?
Yeah. So delegation is key, and knowing how to delegate. And then it goes back to the team. You have to have the right team. And as a business owner, one of your main functions, if not like your main purpose, is making sure that you have the right people in the right jobs. It's just constant. And also you need to have a system to let people go, because when they're not working, so that you're not, I mean, having the wrong people can be toxic for everybody. And so that's really how you can manage, because and as far as the quality goes, it's an interesting question, because so hiring the right people, right, but also understanding that there will be times when things don't go right. There will be times when it's not the same quality when you've done it. However, also understand there will be times also when you bring in the right people that they're doing things better than you can. And so to be able to give up control and to switch from micromanaging to empowering is difficult for many entrepreneurs, but that's how you get things done, and you manage a lot of things at once, and then also making your mission very clear. So you want to know what your vision is and also what your company mission is, and then everybody who comes into the business needs to know what their mission is within the business. And you need to set clear expectations of what everybody needs to do. People want to be successful. And what I've coached startup employees before, and one of their biggest frustrations is not getting feedback and not even knowing what's expected of them, because they're working for inexperienced managers. Most managers are inexperienced. So that's how you do it.
And a lot of the managers as well are still sort of billing, they're hands-on, they're not just a manager. So yeah, and I it's so common, isn't it, where people just don't know their expectations. It's not clear, and it causes a lot of uncertainty, and all of that has a knock-on effect to the quality, the service, the company culture. So it's on paper a simple thing, but when you've got lots of things to think about, it's the little things that can get missed sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you get in the habit and you put systems in place, so even from the job description, that's the first, the candidate experience. Besides, you're providing a candidate experience for your clients, but also internally for your business. So you want to have expectations laid out from the first time that people encounter your brand. This is a selling point, by the way, of getting exclusives with clients, is managing the brand, the candidate experience, and teaching people what it's like. What is the culture? You're teaching them from the very beginning. Like I treat even like the first initial call as it's all training and showing people what the culture is and what the expectation.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, look, with that has absolutely flown by, but we've come to the end of the episode. So today we've had loads of info from Diane, all about that sort of strategic framework to using it to grow your recruitment business. Thank you so much for anybody that's listened and watched the episode today. If you found this helpful, which I'm absolutely sure you will have, we would both love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So you can find both our profile links in the description of this podcast. And you've also got website links and things like that down there as well. I did mention earlier about Recruit CRM. Now, if you want to access a demo and look into it a little bit more, again, there are going to be links in the description, but you basically just need to head over to recruitcrm.io, and there you will find everything you need. Thank you so much for joining us. I have another episode coming up for you. We've got a different guest, obviously, Clark Wilcox, founder of The Digital Recruiter. So you do not want to miss this next one. Keep listening, keep in touch, let us know what you think, leave comments and questions underneath, and I will see you for the next episode. Bye.
And I know Clark, he's awesome. That's going to be a great episode.
It is. I'm super, super excited. Super excited. But thanks very much, and we will see you for the next episode.
Bye.